Thanks so much for your insights. It's really helpful. How do you convince people when you're in a sector where this is perceived, you can't be a category king? How do you convince people that A, you are already in Australia, and B, you're going to do that globally when it's perceived as it's just impossible?
Do you mean that it's impossible to do it from Australia, or that it's impossible to solve the problem?
It's impossible to solve the problem.
Well, first of all, I think Didier's done it. You demonstrate that you can, and you first of all, I think he's exactly right. I mean, he's the kind of entrepreneur that we get inspired by. If you articulate the problem, he knocked on the door to Adobe and said, "This is the problem you have," and the HR person felt that problem. Like I said, they're then immediately sort of interested in hearing the solution. And now, having said that, if he didn't have a solution, there's no business. So the point is that the product piece of that triangle has to solve the problem, right? You don't have a business unless you've got that. And then once you've got that, then you have to create the company piece. How do you sell it? How do you distribute it? What's the price? And how do you package it and all that stuff? And then the final piece is the category. So did I answer your question or not?
Yeah, I think so. I would say that we're in healthcare, so software for doctors and software for patients. So say in Australia, if you want to find a practitioner, 50% chance you're going to use us. We've got 25% of the market share in Australia, and we've done it off seed funding. And we have practitioners and customers in about 50 different countries. So we're wanting to do what we've done in Australia, more in Australia, but globally. But people perceive healthcare, it's this old, staid industry. Every country has its own health system. And that's actually what we've solved. We've solved the ability to customise to each health system quickly. And so whenever you talked about, Didier, you talked about raising capital. When we raised our seed round, we spoke to 134 people. It was just, nobody would get what we were talking about. And it was good once it worked, but it's still difficult to convince people that you can do it in an industry like healthcare, and I would say the same for other sort of more conservative government-involved industries as well.
Yeah.
And it's difficult to do that anywhere in the world. It's really hard to get that up, and I think it's your extra challenge to articulate it in a really convincing way. But obviously, the great thing about that is if you're in a contrarian space where everyone thinks it's too hard, that gives you the wide open space to create the category.
Yes. Yeah, and I was going to say
it's a two-edged sword.
It is, and I was going to say that actually health tech and healthcare is actually a big investment theme that's happening in Silicon Valley right now. We're working with a couple of companies that are just blowing the doors off this thing. And everyone knows it's a problem in America, put aside Trump and all of the other crazy crap that's going on. Everyone knows that healthcare is a really big problem, like $1 trillion problem, and the person or the company or the individual that solves that thing is really going to become a very wealthy person and solve some real things. And so there is big investments happening in that now.
Yeah, I mean, I think the one thing you're hinting on, which is absolutely true, is that if you go to the US with that story, you will get zero value for all of your customers, all of your revenue, all of your technology. If there's someone over there who studied under a professor at Stanford who wrote a paper on this, they are more knowledgeable than you are. That's just the way it works. So the only way to get their interest is to get over there and win somehow. Get in there and show them what you can do. It's not fair, it's not reasonable, but it is reality that they don't see what we do here as being in any way transferable to what's going on over there.
That's also true for Maryland and Austin and Fort Lauderdale.
Oakland.
Oakland, exactly. I mean, that's just the way it is. Yeah.